Hi, Mama Red. How you doing, honey? Ooh, that adulting was hard. I had to grab Luke, and Eddie wanted Mamma Mia pizza, so I had to go grab that. Yeah, I had to get the guinea pigs together, get them inside Eddie's house for tonight, and just all that. Now I'm looking to see what happened during the day because I wasn't paying attention to the news. I was not paying attention. Let's see. Anything? Yep, just hanging out, chilling. Thank God. You know, trying to just be me. Now, what is happening with this? This is the Guthrie lady's mom. So, hello, lucky me, Linda. Struggle is real on adulting. Yes, it is real. I hate it. I hate adulting. Luckily, the post office helped me. You can see I was definitely someone in need, and they helped me.
Porch, it came back to Nancy.
Authorities lay out their timeline of Nancy Guthrie's disappearance. As the investigation into the disappearance of Savannah Guthrie's mom continues, Pima County Sheriff Chris Nanos shared what police believe happened in the hours before she was reported missing during a February press conference. As he explained, authorities were able to work out the details using electronics processed from the 84-year-old's Tucson, Arizona home, beginning on the evening of January 31st.
5:32 p.m., Nancy travels to her local family's home for dinner and playing games with the family. At 9:48 p.m., which is very consistent to what we were told by the family, that Nancy was dropped off.
Hey, Kit Kat.
The sheriff continued.
Meow, meow.
That garage door closes.
It's a Mama Red. Kit Kat and Lucky Me, Linda.
Probably going to bed.
Love it.
Sunday morning, early morning at 1:47 a.m., the doorbell camera disconnects. Although the software detected a person on the doorbell camera, the sheriff said the clip was automatically overwritten because Nancy didn't have a subscription to the service. Nanos emphasized that despite the hiccup, they aren't done trying to retrieve the footage. The sheriff added, at 2:28 a.m., Nancy's pacemaker app shows there was a disconnect from the phone. At 11:56 a.m., the family checks on Nancy and discovers her missing. And at 12:03 p.m., 911 is called in to the Pima County Sheriff's Department. 12 minutes later, our patrol teams arrive. They see the scene and we start our response with our search and rescue teams and our detectives on various units. Sheriff Nanos also gave an update on DNA testing done on blood evidence found outside Nancy's home.
Blood on the porch, it came back to Nancy.
The FBI is offering an award of up to $50,000 information leading to the recovery of Nancy Guthrie and/or the arrest and conviction of anyone involved in her disappearance.
Wow. That's crazy. Wow, everybody's having trouble with the spelling lately. Damn, keyboard's so small. Car drove into a store. That's great.
Hello, everybody. Wow, we have a very packed room.
Hey,
here
Captain
today.
Starling.
Thank you all so much for showing up and for joining.
Welcome. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being here. Yes.
And I know we have some here today, and I don't know why they're here, because they said...
What is this?
No regrets. Were you
Yes, thanks for being here, you guys. Hanging out with me tonight.
Governor Abigail Spanberger signed an executive order calling for the termination of all agreements between Virginia law enforcement and U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE. Derek Lytle tells us why the governor is making this call and how lawmakers are reacting.
It's a move that pulls back from the executive order by previous Governor Glenn Youngkin, which mandated agreements between ICE and state law enforcement. Governor Spanberger's move was brought on by developments in Minneapolis.
Bad tactics,
So Virginia says their people ain't working with them. It turned into a slightly stressful day for me, but it's okay. We're on the tail end of it now. Oh, well, thanks for hanging out with me, guys. That's super sweet, lucky me, Linda. Yeah, but I mean, overall, it was a good day. It was a good day. You know, I had to do some adulting, unexpected adulting that got my heart rate up, but other than that.
training, the bad vetting that we have seen or witnessed or perceive in places like Minnesota, that is degrading trust in law enforcement.
Governor Spanberger made that announcement this week, and the reaction coming in. In a partial statement to 13 News, a U.S. Department of Homeland Security spokesperson says Governor Spanberger will make Virginia less safe as a direct result of these policies. On the other hand, Democratic Congressman Bobby Scott supports Spanberger and believes ICE is out of control.
This agency is out of control. They show little regard to the Constitution. They can't tell the truth. And so I don't know why anybody would pay any attention to anything they say.
Republican.
The reason you're mad is because they're arresting all your voters. Duh. Hello, Muffin Man. Do you know the Muffin Man, the Muffin Man, the Muffin Man? Do you know the Muffin Man who lived on Drury Lane?
Congressman John McGuire weighing in agreement with the ICE statement. He believes Spanberger's move will bring more violence to the Commonwealth.
If you're a criminal, do you want a state where local, state, federal authorities coordinate, work as a team, and communicate? Or do you want to go to a state that's a sanctuary where they are not allowed to coordinate or work as a team, or encouraged not to work as a team?
Right.
It's nonsensical. It's a bad idea.
Spanberger believes that won't be the case.
No cause for me to say that any pullback of that 287G agreement has any impact on the ability to keep Virginians safe. And importantly, it means that Virginia state enforcement have, their full attention at the jobs that they were hired to do.
Derek Lytle, 13 News Now.
Really?
A Virginia State Police spokesperson said in a statement, VSP remains focused on protecting safety and identifying and dismantling criminal enterprises.
Well, a little birdie told me rates are taking the dip, which means that dream home.
I wonder how the Virginia sheriffs out there feel.
Last week, as federal agents raided the Fulton County, Georgia elections office.
Oh, check this out. It should be good.
I have good news. So
you are the Muffin Man. Look at you. I see you.
Where you can go online
you are.
To get basically the latest of what's going
Mulberry
on.
Lane? I thought it was Drury Lane.
Visit with some of our great, courageous.
Yeah, I don't know this Muffin Man.
Civic leaders, faith leaders, young leaders. I'm really excited.
I don't know this Muffin. I know the one on Drury Lane.
Thank you.
Okay. So is she running? Is that an announcement or a nod toward her running? That is the question folks are asking. After Kamala Harris' 2024 campaign release of a video rebranding her 2024 campaign.
So Kamala Harris might be trying to run again. Who's ready to vote?
For Democrats to try to catch up with Republicans on the digital media front and connect with voters online. Harris, again, has not ruled out in 2028.
Interesting.
The Atlantic and MS Now political analyst.
Welcome to YouTube, Muffin Man. Is this your first time here?
Well. Actually, what do you make of that?
Probably
So
not.
you just go there and get everything you need and hear from people and.
Well, let's see what the Muffin Man has to say.
Yeah, I will confess I don't fully understand it. I've talked to some Democratic operatives who like the vice president and also don't fully understand it. But, you know, some of that seems a little bit by design. They released a teaser last night, then there's this video. It feels
I'm a
like
baker.
at some point explain a bit more of what this is, or we're just going to actually get to see it in action. But it
The
does
like
seem like a
Muffin
very
Man.
effort, to start a real community and a discussion.
So you're not a 4-year farmer?
No.
Is
Sean?
governor, you think? Is it not president? Maybe it's governor? California?
I think if she runs for something, it's president. And I will say, I was just in Richmond on Monday, actually.
Swear to God.
She is doing this leg of her book.
You're not a
tour,
4th-year farmer?
You know, crowd size is not everything, but the crowds that gather to see her early.
No, the only reason we're playing with you is because your account says you just joined, and that's usually the sign of a troll. So, if you're not a troll, I apologize, but if you are, that's why I'm laughing.
I think she should run again for president. But as you put out, she hasn't ruled it out. And at the very least, she's keeps herself relevant in the conversation. And she's not a lame duck potential candidate until she actually makes a decision.
I wonder if it's also trying to combat maybe Gavin Newsom, who's very heavily online right now and is leading the pack and he has a digital strategy. He's got a popular podcast. He's trolling the president. He's
super
thinking right now. You can argue
super
that
great.
It's not a good idea.
I'll be right back.
This early on. But I wonder if this is an attempt to get into the pool so Newsom's not there playing alone. Stu.
Look, I mean, to run for president and win, you have to run. And I think what she's saying is that I may run. I'm out here. I'm a viable candidate. You know, I mean, Ashley knows this so well, cover the Romney campaign. A lot of running for president is a battle of wills. There aren't a lot of people out there who are unbiased who would say, you know, you should run, you're going to win. I don't know who, if they showed up in Richmond, would have drawn a bigger crowd than she did. And I think the buyer's remorse with Trump, we were talking about this earlier with just Hispanic voters, but across the way, look at independents. There's tremendous buyer's remorse. And I think that this notion that the 24 election was a realignment election is proving to be completely false. It was a change election, just as the next election will be. It was a very difficult election for an incumbent to win. I actually think the Harris campaign ran a very good campaign. They lost. That happens. That should happen in politics. That's part of democracy. Somebody has to be willing to lose. But I think she's a tremendously appealing candidate. You never know what's going to happen until you get out there. I mean, that was part of the problem. She was just sort of annoyed that she didn't have to go through a primary. Now she will. And you know, as far as whether or not she should have done this or not, every campaign I've ever been involved in, there was all this debate about how to announce, and then 2 months later, nobody remembered how you announced. So it's not going to matter.
I mean, we're talking about her, which is a success in and of itself. We're having the conversation. When I'm just moving on to Gavin Newsom here and that Vanity Fair shoot, we just showed an image from it, an Annie Leibovitz's image of it. Actually, it reminds me of the Beto O'Rourke image from on before, what was it, 2020? Maybe it was out in early 2019 or something.
Yeah.
It seemed like Beto O'Rourke was like a shoo-in for the nomination. He was so popular, from Texas, so charismatic.
Troll muffins. Your bakery makes troll muffins.
I mean, I hate to say that
Yay!
I participate with media interviews and
Well,
photos
shit.
because we'll somehow jinx them, so that's not going to be my talking point here. I always think more participation.
There's quite a few in this city.
But I'm struck by two things. I'm struck by sort of how much I hear unsolicited from Democrats, both voters and activists and strategists, that they like what.
So, I mean, just wow. Mark Weiner asked if Tulsi Gabbard is trying to interfere in voting. These people really need to just sit down, calm down, and let the big boys, let the grown-ups handle the show. Yeah, just let the grown-ups handle this. Uh-oh.
A civil war taking place in Minnesota, and guess who's making it worse?
These are not distant headlines. These were beloved community members
really?
fighting.
Complete lunatics. Host on by anti-ICE agitators' new tactic.
Today. I'm sure it's going to be informative. You know,
Dad, I love that you're here, but I don't.
Oh yeah, we shot down one of Iran's drones there.
Meanwhile, Tom Homan's going to have his presser today, and I'm sure it's going to be informative. You know, one thing he talked about when he first took the job back and took control is, we got 3,000 agents here. There's going to be conditions where we'll draw down and take take some pressure off. But you got to give us access to your jails is one of the demands. The mayor and governor at separate times said, I'm not giving you that. Which, by the way, they just decide what federal laws they're not going to comply with. Pretty sure that doesn't fly in America. Number two, he did pull out most of the Border Patrol. So this is ICE now, but the Border Patrol has pulled back to a degree. So we'll see where we go from here. But it hasn't stopped these local community groups for continuing to act against ICE.
These mini chop zones have been emerging. The residents there are still fiercely attempting to resist and blockade ICE from their lawful duties on the ground there. This is some of what we're seeing develop on the ground. So we'll see what Tom Homan has to say. I mean, you think he's been on the ground there for quite some time now, Lawrence?
What are they doing?
But do you see this? So I first had interaction with these guys. They're complete lunatics back in 2020 when I was correspondent for Sean's show.
A guy got died.
So,
A guy got died.
Across the country, but they have another chop zone.
A guy got died. You didn't know a guy got died? He totally got died.
So we'll see what Tom Homan has to say. I mean, you think he's been on the ground there for quite some time now, Lawrence?
What are they doing?
But do you see this? So I first had interaction with these guys. They're complete lunatics back in 2020 when I was correspondent for Sean's show.
A guy got died.
So, that was in Seattle. So they
a guy got
all
died
across the country, but they have another chop zone in Minneapolis in George Floyd Square. The police are not allowed to go in there at all.
What do you mean not allowed?
You have to get approval to go in there. One time I went there with our camera crew. They completely surrounded us, and we had to negotiate to be able to leave as well. So
wow.
This is the type of lawlessness that Minneapolis has allowed for years. So now you got the feds coming in saying you got criminal aliens here, and you got massive fraud. You stole the American people's money, billions and billions of dollars. We have a federal investigation, and they're blocking that as well. And the local cops and the city council, Fry, is allowing it to happen.
This is totally unacceptable. It's now looked at as a total. It's a total travesty what happened in Seattle. And looking back, people say you don't want to defund the police, you don't want to take on law enforcement. That's not where we want to be. Having blocks, insurgencies take over blocks, and Minneapolis is now trying to unlearn that and say, no, well, we're going to do that. We're going to take back our city. All these activists. You know what I don't see? Who exactly are you protecting? Do you hear any of them talking about protecting illegal immigrants? They say we're going to protect my immigrants, but there's nobody there that they really can say that they're blocking. They're just anti-law enforcement. They're anti-Trump. That's what this is about. And they're also following these ICE trucks, protecting their schools. They're training different people. They're running plates to find out if SUV are a member of ICE.
But
since when are you running plates?
Who allows that, though? These aren't cops.
Cops should go in there and clear that out.
But they're not allowed to. The mayor would not allow them. The chief won't allow. And so for the other people in the mainstream media that say, why won't the president negotiate with these people? How do you negotiate with people like this? How do you negotiate?
Because you don't negotiate with terrorists.
Allows, like, anarchy within their town.
Yeah, so I guess the Minneapolis Police Officers Association is blasting these unauthorized checkpoints. Officers Federation of Minneapolis does not support private individuals or groups establishing unauthorized checkpoint blockades or patrol zones on public streets. Peaceful protest is a constitutional right. Impersonating law enforcement, conducting stop and frisk activities, or physically blocking public roadways is not. Well, to your point, where are they when that's happening?
So just for everybody's clarification here, that's the police union speaking against their own department and saying they're not able to do their job. So you get all these guys, these leadership police departments, that get on TV, speak against other cops, federal agents, because they are cops, and then they're
Wait a second. How exactly are these terrorists? First of all, we don't negotiate with terrorists. That's what isn't negotiating with them. That's first and foremost. You need to understand that before you understand anything else about this situation. The other thing is, how are these people checking license plates? There must be dirt cops. Right or wrong? There must be dirty cops. Check license plates? What? Private detectives and law enforcement can do that, right? You have to have some kind of clearance to do that. Like, what the fuck are we talking about?
This union that are there say they don't support that.
Yeah, ICE.
I don't understand. This could all be squashed very easily.
They go for 16 weeks original training. There's extensive background checks. So if you're coming against ICE, you're against law enforcement. Just, you know, the party that supports this is anti-law enforcement. So you're a family of an officer of any level. I don't care if it's Border Patrol or the local cops or the local sheriff. There's a party that is totally against your presence and against what you do. You know, the Republicans should feel as though, even though they feel perhaps that maybe some ICE in some of these situations were overstepping, right now, according to the latest Pew poll, most Republicans are thoroughly for the president's crackdown.
Yeah.
They say 45%.
Well, yeah. Of course. Anybody else hear any kind of news stuff today we need to listen to?
Massive sculptures carved into solid rock. Soaring structures built to stand the test of time. And gigantic stone obelisks that reveal mysterious agenda.
You know what? Didn't they just open the book of Enoch? Something creepy happened? What was it? And you won't believe what happened. Was it Joe Rogan? Is that who it was on? Let me see. There it is. There it is.
From Joe?
No, it wasn't a month ago. There it is, 8 days ago. Okay. So this is Joe Rogan.
Is nuts.
That's
I talked
the
to myself
Giants
about
one.
it.
That's the Giants
It's
one,
not just
right?
the Giants, it's aliens. It's about the Watchers who came down and mated with human beings. Bro, I'm reading it right now.
No, you are.
Bananas. She told me to read it. And she's like, you have to read this. It's nuts.
And what did Wes have to say? Did he say this?
Yeah, it's 100% a legitimate text. It's legitimate religious text. But they decided not to include it because it's so nuts and because it goes against like what the writings of the Torah.
Right.
So, but it was a few rabbis. A few rabbis decided. Like if the book of Enoch was included in the Bible, it changes the whole story of the human race.
Why would the rabbis decide what goes into the
back then
Christian?
they had that kind of power. It's decided that it doesn't get included in the canon. This is a long time ago.
But yeah, I mean, this is like around. Well, who decided to canonize Bible, right? This is like Constantine time, right?
Well, that's for the New Testament, right?
Yeah.
And so with the Old Testament, you've got Westhoff would be the guy to ask
wait a
all
minute.
these
Enoch was included in the Old Testament.
Oh, it's old as fuck.
Oh, okay, got
So
it.
get to the part about how they opened it, and it was crazy.
People started coming here, how they came here, fascinating stuff. But that's one of those things. Like if you think ancient history is filled with horseshit.
Where is it?
They only eat meat, and that's Neanderthals. Like, stop! This one's not
too
a
much.
good design. This is not a good design. We need them a little more frail so they invent things.
Yeah.
Because brutes don't invent anything.
Yeah, more frontal cortex.
Yeah. The Neanderthals had bigger brains than us. That's what's interesting.
So then, what part of our brain was specifically different?
So we have a very
it's clickbait. Never mind. Clickbait. Gotta love yourself some clickbait. Oh, we have a new lefties. Trump's best roasts of the week. Let's see.
Good evening and welcome to a program.
Oh yeah, it is super bad.
Lefties losing it.
And you know, you wouldn't think Joe Rogan be clickbaiting, but yeah, he's clickbaiting for real. That was clickbait, 100%. I even went and searched it out, looked for it, found it, played a little bit of it, and it can clickbait. It's him discovering the Book of Enoch. Okay, that's great.
Let's start the week with the ever-reliable Stephen Colbert, a man who was once funny, perhaps decades ago, but has been reduced to a miserable, moaning activist incapable of wit. He's been reduced to this.
Look, Dana, they're trying to portray Border Patrol agents and ICE agents as Gestapo, Nazi, and many other words.
Yes, not compare ICE or Border Patrol agents to the Nazis. That's an unfair comparison. The Nazis were willing to show their faces.
Yes, Stephen, well done. ICE and Border Patrol agents are worse than Nazis. How clever and comedic. And do seek help before the men in white coats arrive and whisk you away. Talking about crazy, let's have a look at these agitators, these brainwashed clowns who think they are...
Problem is, there are no men in white coats anymore.
...defeating the Nazis. Just have a look at this lot, how performative and pathetic this all is.
Border walls have got to go.
Murphy nailed it when she's...
Border walls have got to go. Every other country on this planet has border walls. A fence with guys with guns, some shit. Okay, let me just... Every night, when you lay down in your bed, do you lock your door? No, I mean, come on, man. This is ridiculous. This is an absolutely ridiculous argument. It's super frustrating.
These people are 100% think they're in a movie. But they're privileged little nerds who have zero relationship with working class or poor people who have no idea how the real world works. Here. Talk about being out of touch. Let's hear from Lady Gaga, who had a lengthy rant at a concert in Tokyo. She read it out. It wasn't very good. Here's a little of what she had to say.
My heart is aching, thinking about the people, the children, the families all over America who are being mercilessly targeted by ICE. I'm thinking about all of their pain and how their lives are being destroyed right in front of us. I'm also thinking about Minnesota, everyone back at home who is living in so much fear and searching for answers on what we all should do.
Just so divorced from reality. And did you notice lack of cheers and applause? The Japanese have no time for your empty,
hey, Real Red Mama, how you doing?
Self-indulgent virtue signaling Lady Gaga. It blows my mind that she would deliver that idiotic rant in Japan, a country that has
Muffin Man, that's
zero
weird.
tolerance for illegal immigration, a country with some of the strictest migration laws.
You guys want to listen to some alien stuff now that everybody, I think everybody's here. You're great. I'm great. You remind me of Tony the Tiger just then. You guys want to listen to the alien interview, or do you want to keep listening to news? We'll stick with news for right now.
Anywhere in the world.
We'll do alien later.
The celebs are not cheering on lawless, violent
Oh, Starling, you want to hear alien? Have you been listening, Starling? I don't want you to come in the middle. I'm sure you've heard it. It's the alien interview with the nurse McElroy. Alien. Okay, awesome. All right, let's get it on then. Shit. What we playing with? Let's see. Okay.
I do not want to keep playing.
Okay, so at this point, Errol is going through history. Oh, yeah? Alien wins. Alien wins. Okay. So at this point, Errol is going through history, which is fascinating. The book of Enoch kind of backs up kind of some of the things she was saying. So he's coming upon the time when they figured out that there was the net around this prison planet that kept shocking us back down onto the planet. Let's see. Okay, there. Yeah, it was end of chapter in part 2, right? Let me see.
Using an electronic light wave emitting stone cutter and carving tools held in a...
Yeah, we were past this. Star cutters. Oh my god.
And was lived... Siddhartha, he confronted his own thoughts and past lives. Doing so, he recovered some of his own memory.
Okay, it was before this. All right.
Or, during this same time, war was being fought out in the space of the solar system between two forces for control of the space stations surrounding Earth. That period of 300 years was very violent resistance to the domain forces by the remnants of the old empire forces. It did not last long, however, as it is futile to resist domain. 850 BCE, Homer, the blind Greek poet, wrote the stories, the gods, as borrowed and modified from earlier sources in the Vedic texts, Sumerian texts, Babylonian and Egyptian mythology. His poems, as well as many other myths of the ancient world, are very accurate descriptions of the exploits of Isbis on...
Okay, so yeah, she's going through the history, and while this is happening, they're fighting a war. Take care, Muffin. Bye. So they're... Yeah, this is very niche. Not a lot of people are listening to this. I get it. I get it, Muffin Man. It's cool. This is a very niche little thing we're doing right now. Anyway, and then of course it goes to 700. The Vatican hymns were first translated.
Wise man from Greece reported the existence of Atlantis. This was information he received from the old empire high priest Synopsis of Heliopolis and Sauntius of Sais, with whom he studied in Egypt. 630 BCE,
You love this?
Zoroaster created religious
awesome.
practices in Persia around an Isbi called Ahura
There's some more. We'll get into it. Yes.
Mazda. This was yet another of the growing number of monotheistic gods put in place by operatives of the domain to displace a panoply of old empire gods. 604 BCE, Lao Ji, a philosopher who wrote a small book called The Way, an Isbi of great wisdom, who overcame the effects of the old empire amnesia, gnosis machinery, and escaped from Earth. His understanding of the nature of an Isbi must have been very good to accomplish this. According to the common legend, his last lifetime as a human was lived in a small village in China. He contemplated the existence of his own life. Like Gautama, Siddhartha, he confronted his own thoughts and past lives. In doing so, he recovered some of his own memory, ability, and immortality. As an old man, he decided to leave the village and go to the forest to depart the body. The village gatekeeper stopped him and begged him to write down his personal philosophy before leaving. Here is a small piece of the advice he gave about the way he rediscovered his own spirit. He who looks will not see it. He who listens will not hear it. He who gropes will not grasp it. The formless non-entity, the motionless source of motion, the infinite essence of the spirit, is the source of life. Spirit is self. Walls form and support a room, yet the space between them is most important. A pot is formed of clay, yet the space formed therein is most useful. Action is caused by the force of nothing on something, just as the nothing of spirit is the source of all form. One suffers great afflictions because one has a body. Without a body, what afflictions could one suffer? When one cares more for the body than for his own spirit, one becomes the body and loses the way of the spirit. The self, the spirit, creates illusion. The delusion of man is that reality is not an illusion. One who creates illusions and makes them more real than reality follows the path of the spirit and finds the way of heaven. 593 BCE, the Genesis story written by the Jewish people, described angels or sons of God mating with women of earth who bore them children. These were probably renegades from the old empire. They may also have been space pirates or merchants from a system outside the galaxy who came to steal mineral resources or smuggle drugs. Domain has observed that there are many visitors to Earth from neighboring planets and galaxies, but they rarely stop and live here. What kind of beings would live on a prison planet if they were not forced to do so? Yeah, space pirates. The same book also...
Yeah, space pirates too, thieves are everywhere. Thievery. Crime.
In planets and galaxies, but they rarely stop and live here. What kind of beings would live on a prison planet if they were not forced to do so? The same book also reports the story of a human named Ezekiel who witnessed the spacecraft or aircraft landing near Chabar River in Chaldea. His description of the craft uses very archaic language, technically, but is nevertheless quite an accurate description of an old empire saucer or scout craft. It is similar to the sightings of Vimanas by the people in the foothills of the Himalayas. Their Genesis story also mentions that Yahweh designed biological bodies to live for 120 years on Earth. Biological bodies on most Sun-type 12 Class 7 planets are usually engineered to last for an average of about 150 years. Human bodies on Earth last only about...
Yeah, that's why he's God. Duh. That explains it all. Yay. Exactly. Thieves, crime, thieves.
One half as long.
Beggars and whores, crime.
We suspect this is because the prison administrators have altered the biological material of human bodies on Earth to die more frequently so that the Isbis who inhabit them will recycle through the amnesia mechanism more frequently. It should be noted that much of the Old Testament was written during the captivity of the Jews who were enslaved in Babylon, which was very heavily controlled by priests of the Old Empire. The book introduces a false sense of time and a false concept of the origin of the creation. The serpent is the symbol of the Old Empire. It appears in the beginning of their creation story, or as the Greeks say, Genesis, and causes the spiritual destruction of the first human beings, who are metaphorically represented by Adam and Eve. The Old Testament, clearly influenced by the Old Empire forces, gives a detailed description of the Isbis being induced into biological bodies on Earth. This book also describes many of the Old Empire brainwashing activities, including the installation of false memories, lies, superstitions, commands to forget, and all manner of tricks and traps designed to keep Isbis on Earth. Most importantly, it destroys the awareness that humans are immortal spiritual beings. 580 BCE, the oracle at Delphi was one temple in a network of many oracle temples. Each temple was a communication center. The Old Empire priest designated a local god for each temple. Each of the temples in this network were located at precisely 5 degrees of latitude intervals from the capital city of Thebes throughout the Mediterranean area as far north as the Baltic Sea. The shrines served, among other things, as a grid housing electronic beacons, later called omphalos stones. The grid arrangement of the oracle sites can only be seen from miles of the earth. The original network of electronic communications beacons were displayed and the priesthood was dispersed and were replaced by carved stones. The symbol of the old empire priesthood is the python, dragon, or serpent.
It's probing
It is
time.
called the
Yeah.
earth dragon at Delphi, which is always
Yeah,
represented in
she read the
sculpture
Bible.
and vase paintings as a serpent. In Greek,
Yes, that was like, remember the nurse says she didn't request it, but nurse brought in the Bible. Yeah. Yep. Definitely. Definitely had the Bible. That's why she's referring to Genesis now.
mythology, the guardian of the omphalos stone at the temple at Delphi was an oracle whose name was Python, the serpent. She was an Isbe, who was conquered by a god named Apollo. He buried her under the omphalos stone. This is a case of one god setting up his temple on the grave of another. This is a very accurate euphemism for the domain force that detected and disabled the Old Empire temple network on Earth. It was one of the fatal blows to the Old Empire force in the solar system of Earth. 559 BCE, the commanding officer of the Domain Battalion, who was lost in 5965 BCE, was detected and located by a search party sent to Earth from the Domain Expeditionary Force. He was incarnated as Cyrus II of Persia during this time. A unique system of organization was used by Cyrus II and the members of that battalion who followed him from India through his progression.
No, here's the thing. I think that she is giving truth. I think she's giving truth, but she's only giving what she wants to give. And now, listen, I've heard this interview more than a dozen times, okay? And some of the things she says, like I said, is backed up by the Bible, but she warps it and twists it. And remember how I told you that, you know, God made many beings before he created human beings. And, you know, the choirs of angels, the archangels, you know, Lucifer, who was there in the beginning, and Christ, who was there in the beginning. And there were many. So what I'm trying to say is, I feel she's using beliefs. Yeah. Right, but that's what she's trying to say, that the empire is trying to do to us. Right? So, exactly, remember what I told you. 2 lies and 1 truth. Yes. So there is truth to what she is saying. And it's going to get a little more interesting because, yeah, it's going to get a little more interesting. Yeah. It's just, don't ever take anything she says at face value. Because, you know, she, of course, not being God's chosen, would be jealous of us.
Of human lives on Earth. In part, it enabled them to build the largest empire in the history of the Earth to that date. The Domain search party who located him traveled around the Earth.
Now, could she be right about these Isbis? 1,000%. Exactly, Mama Red. It perpetuates itself. Exactly. That's the point I'm trying to get to. It perpetuates itself. Right? And, you know, there's, it's very interesting, especially when she gets into how we were supposedly formed and how they terraform other planets and they have these planets that terraform. It gets really interesting. But that's not to say that God didn't create them to do that. Do you understand what I'm saying? That's not to say that 2027. Yeah, Mama Red is positive something big's gonna happen in 2027. And she's been right about a lot of shit in the time that I've known her. Are we going on 4 years with all of us together now? That's crazy, ladies. That's crazy. And gentlemen, if there's any gentlemen here. Yeah, 4 years. I'll be damned, man. We've been skirting around. All right, let's get back to this. Now, she's saying a domain search party located one of their old domain soldiers. Now, once again, if you have a domain search party, that means they're coming down. And remember how she says ISBs can't get off of Earth? So I think she's going to explain it here soon.
Searching for the lost battalion for several thousand years.
Oh.
The party consisted of 900.
Well, thanks for being here, little brother, listening up. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Hi. How you doing? Hi. Hello. Hi. Don't worry. He means and on the throne. Oh. Wow. I'll be praying for you.
Officers of the domain divided into teams of 300 each. One team searched the land, another team searched the oceans, and the third team searched the space surrounding Earth. There are many reports made in various...
I'm not here, only the probe. Okay, well, hey, it's probing time, so here we go.
Around the Earth searching for the lost battalion for several thousand years. The party consisted of 900 officers of the domain, divided into teams of 300 each. One team searched the land, another team searched the oceans, and the third team searched the space surrounding Earth. There are many reports made in various human civilizations concerning their activities, which humans did not understand, of course. The Domain Search Party devised a wide variety of electronic detection devices needed to track the electronic signature or wavelength of each of the missing members of the battalion. Some were used in space, others on land, and special devices were invented to detect ISBs underwater. One of these electronic detection devices is referred to as a tree of life. The device is literally a tool designed to detect the presence of life, which is an ISB. This was a large electronic screen generator designed to permeate wide areas. To the ancient humans on Earth, it resembled a sort of tree, since it consists of an interwoven lattice of electronic field generators and receivers. The electronic field detects the presence of ISBs, whether the ISB is occupying a body or if they are outside a body. A portable version of this detection device was carried by each of the members of the Domain Search Party. Stone carvings in Sumeria showed winged beings using pine cone-shaped instruments to scan the bodies of human beings. They are also shown carrying the power unit for the scanner, which are depicted as stylized baskets or water buckets being carried by eagle-headed winged beings. Members of the aerial unit of the Domain Search Party, led by Ahura Mazda, were often...
Okay, right there where she says they were scanning the human beings. Why would she say human beings if all human beings are ISBs? You see what I'm saying? Like, she tells on herself. In little ways, she tells on herself. That the Dominion soldiers... I'll replay it. Dominion soldiers were scanning the humans. What do you mean, humans? What do you mean? I thought we were all ISBs. Pinecone. Yeah, that's quite a shape for a probe. I'm telling you, that's scary. Yeah, so why are you calling them humans if they're all ISBs? They're searching for their soldiers, right? Well, why did you say humans? Why didn't you say searching all the living ISBs?
Generators and receivers. The electronic field detects the presence of ISBs, whether the...
I don't think so, because she is so precise in every other way. Even the nurse is precise in how she's writing it down and what is being said. It was a slip up. That's what that just was. That's what that just was. Because everything else is so precise. Look at her. Dates, times, names. No, I don't think, not for one instant. I don't know, maybe. like I said, it's open to interpretation. I just caught that. You know what I mean?
Is
It's
occupying a body, or if they are outside a body. A portable version of this detection device was carried by each of the members of the Domain Search Party. Stone carvings in Sumeria showed winged beings using pine cone-shaped instruments to scan the bodies of human beings.
See?
They're also shown carrying the power unit.
To scan the bodies of human beings. Why are you calling them human beings? I thought, see, why would she differentiate? See, that's what I'm saying. Why would she differentiate between a human being or herself or one of her troops? Aren't we all Isbies? Like, why is she... Yeah, but you can go deeper into that. You understand what I'm saying? Why would she say scanning the human beings? She made very specific. She was specific about what they were doing, what the shape and size of the instrument was, that was written in hieroglyphics, and that they were scanning the human beings. Why wouldn't she just say scanning Isbies?
For the scanner, which are depicted as stylized baskets or water buckets being carried by eagle-headed winged beings. Members of the aerial unit of the Domain Search Party, led by Ahura Mazda, were often called winged gods in human interpretations. Throughout the Persian civilization, there are a great many stone relief carving that depict winged spacecraft that they call a Faravahar. Members of the aquatic unit of the Domain Search Party were called...
But that's why this is like 2 lies and 1 truth. Which one is a lie? Which one is the truth? Yeah, amazing point. It can definitely go many ways. And I love that you know, challenge me to think in a different way. But that's just something that's always rubbed me the wrong way when I've heard it. Scanning the human beings. It just never felt right in me.
Ons by local humans. Stone carvings of the so-called Ons are shown wearing silver diving suits. They lived in the sea and appeared to the human population to be men dressed to look like fish. Some members of the Lost Battalion were found in the oceans inhabiting the bodies of dolphins or whales. On land, the Domain Search Party members were referred to as Anunnaki by the Sumerians and Nephilim in the Bible. Of course, their true mission and activities were never disclosed to Homo sapiens. Their activities have been purposely disguised. Therefore, the human stories and legends about the Anunnaki and the other members of the Domain Search Party have not been understood and were badly misinterpreted. In the absence of complete and accurate data, anyone observing a phenomenon will assume or hypothesize.
So, if you know anything about the Anunnaki, okay, it's supposed to be another... It's exactly the same beliefs. Wait. I can't get the Scientology. I can't get the Scientology. How so? No, okay, so what she is saying is that... Well, let me get on this point here. The Anunnaki, when she refers to the Anunnaki, she's saying that's one of the Dominion scout forces that were trying to release Isbies that I guess were supposedly trapped here. Or lost here. Okay, Anunnaki is... Oh, God, that's a rabbit hole, ladies and gentlemen. That is a rabbit hole. And she's saying it's a made-up rabbit hole. Okay, that it was a misinterpretation of what Domain forces were doing. Okay, Domain being her peoples. The Empire is the one that put the prison net over this planet, supposedly. They believe we're prison aliens on this planet Earth. Yes. Now, the Anunnaki, some alien enthusiasts believe... Right, that's what they believe. Yes, of course. But the thing is what she's trying to say is that they were doing something else and humans misinterpreted it. You understand what I'm saying? Yes, exactly. Right, but let's look up. When did Scientology begin? Because if it's anywhere close to when this was released, you might have a connection there, sweetheart. Let's look it up. Can somebody look it up with a faster phone than mine? When was no, okay. This interview, Matilda O'Donnell McElroy, the nurse that did the interview, was on her deathbed. But this alien interviews took place in 1947. Right when the Roswell crashes were. When did Scientology start up? Hold on. Maybe I can get it faster. My phone's a piece of crap, but it works sometimes. Founded when? When was Scientology founded? Because you're right, we might just have found a link between Scientology and what this woman just said. Yeah, so it's after this interview. Holy shit. Okay, you just picked up a common thread, baby. That's what you just did. That's what you just did. You just picked up a common thread. You just picked up a common thread. Okay, so it is after the Roswell crash and after this interview happened. So I guarantee the nurse wasn't the only one with these paperworks. You've been looking shit up. I believe it. All right. Now I think she's going to get into how they figured out the net.
Opposed to Homo sapiens. Their activities have been purposely disguised. Therefore, the human stories and legends about the Anunnaki and the other members of the Domain Search Party have not been understood and were badly misinterpreted. In the absence of complete and accurate data, anyone observing a phenomenon will assume or hypothesize explanations in an attempt to make sense of the data. Therefore, although mythology and history may be based on factual events, they are likewise full of misunderstood and misinterpreted evaluations of the data and embellished with assumptions, theories, and hypotheses which are false. The space unit of the Domain Expeditionary Force are shown flying in a winged disc. This is an allusion to the spiritual power of the Isbis, as well as to the spacecraft used by the Domain Search Party. The commander of the Lost Battalion, as Cyrus II, was an Isbi who was regarded as a messiah on Earth by both the Jews and the Muslims. In less than 50 years, he established a highly ethical and humanitarian philosophy which pervaded all of Western civilization. His territorial conquests, organization of people, and monumental building projects were unprecedented before or since.
Way before that,
such
that's when
sweeping
public knowledge.
accomplishments
So,
in a short period of time could only have been achieved by a leader and a team of trained officers, pilots, engineers, and crew members of a unit of the domain acting as a team who had been trained and worked together for thousands of years. Although we have discovered the location of many of the Isbis in the Lost Battalion, the domain has been unable to restore their memory and return them to active duty as yet. Of course, we cannot transport Isbis who are inhabiting biological bodies to the space stations of the domain since there is no oxygen in our spacecraft. Also, we do not maintain life support facilities for biological entities there. Our only hope has been to locate and rekindle the awareness, memory, and identity of the Isbis of the Lost Battalion. One day they will be capable of rejoining us. 200...
Okay, right there. All right. Supposedly, there were people down here. Yeah, the blood linkage, yes. Family keepsakes, yes. Okay, why wouldn't they just transport the body up so it could die outside the net? And then the ISB would be free. Right? Listen, I got to unpack this a little bit. Because I feel like she's... Oh, I feel like she's straight fucking lying right here. She says...
Only hope has been to locate and...
Although we have discovered the location of many of the ISBs in the Lost Battalion. How? Because you sent ISBs down here. How did you leave then? Because you were embodying doll bodies? But then your ISB would still be shocked by the fucking thing that's keeping us here. See how that doesn't make fucking sense? Then she says, although we have discovered the location of many of the ISBs in the Lost Battalion, the domain has been unable to restore their memory or return them to active duty as yet. Of course, we cannot transport ISBs who are inhabiting biological bodies to the space stations. Why not? Then they die outside of the realm and the ISB is free. Why does Rh negative blood have no more origins? That to this day, the scientists have no clue where the blood came from. A very good question, Mama Red. Very good question. Very good question. Alien blood. That's why. Alien blood. Now, okay. And then it says, also, we do not maintain life support facilities for biological entities here. You wouldn't need to maintain it. It would just have to die outside the net if there's a net shocking people. Do you understand what I'm saying? Right, Mama? Red Mama? Exactly. I thought they were so fucking smart too. Yeah, Rh negative could be alien blood. That's another rabbit hole we can go down for sure. Okay, and it's our only hope has been able to locate and rekindle the awareness, memory, and identity of the ISB of the Lost Battalion. One day they will be capable. Well, how are you locating and rekindling the awareness? How are you coming down here? How are you getting out? What do you mean? Bio body dies, spirit lives in. Yeah. That's what they're saying. That's what she's saying. We all are at our core. We're all ISBs. We're on a prison planet and we're being shocked back down by this electrical net that surrounds our planet. Right? Well, if that's the case, transport the ISB and its body up to space, let it die, and the spirit is free. The ISB's free then. It's not getting shocked by the net anymore. Well, what the fuck then, right? Do you see how this is like... And that's why I warned you when we started listening to this, that this is probably, two lies, one truth, two lies, one truth. It's a double speak bullshit. Okay, so you're getting me. Okay, you're getting me. All right, let's carry... Okay, so we're on the... All right, that's fucked up, right? Okay, so that's where my mind starts to go to, you lying fucking whore, right? You lying bitch, you're lying now.
Rekindle the awareness, memory, and identity of the ISBs of the Lost Battalion. One day they will be capable of rejoining us. 200 BC.
And if that is the case, then maybe there is no net. Maybe, you understand, like...
CE, the last remnant.
And how was she flying her spacecraft that she crashed in her little doll body? How is she gonna get the fuck out of here now, too?
Of the old empire, pyramid civilization is at Teotihuacan. The Aztec name means place of the gods, or where the men were transformed into gods. Like the astronomical configuration of the Giza pyramids in Egypt, the entire complex is a precise scale model of the solar system that accurately reflects the orbital distances of the inner planets, the asteroid belt, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. Since the planet Uranus had only been discovered with the modern Earth telescopes in 1787, and Pluto not until 1930, it is apparent that the builders had information from other sources. A common element of the pyramid civilizations around the Earth is the constant use of the image of the snake, dragon, or serpent. This is because the beings who planted these civilizations here want to create an illusion that the gods are reptilian. This is also part of an illusion designed to perpetuate amnesia.
Okay, right here. She's talking about the net that puts the amnesia in there. Well, the reason we put snakes, dragons, and serpents is because we're freaked out by snakes and lizards. The human being has a natural instinct to have a fear response, run response to anything that is long, slithery, and looks slimy. Okay, that's why. Now, here, we all know that there might be reptilian, right? Second guess, red. Yeah. Okay, hybrids exist. Okay, so now we all know that reptilians might exist. There are a lot of proof that reptilian aliens exist. We can get into that at a later date. I told you there's hundreds of rabbit holes to go down here. Now, I think that she's showing jealousy here of the reptilian alien race that also visits Earth. Okay? And she's trying to say that these reptilians, this is also a part of the illusion designed to perpetrate amnesia. Right? But then if you go and you look up the Anunnaki, who is from Planet 9, those, a lot of people think, actually has good proof that they do exist as well. And what about the do bees and don't bees? Next go around. I guess, right? Next go around. Because some must be similar to and jealousy took over. That's what I'm trying to say. Yes, that's what I'm trying to say. I think right now she's trying to play down the reptilian aliens. I think she was trying to play down the Anunnakis. That's what the point I was trying to get to. The Anunnaki is an alien race that comes from our sister star. So, have you ever heard that we are a bipolar, shit. It's not going to come out right. That we have two suns. Okay? We are, the world is failing me. Two suns. What's the word for two suns in a galaxy? Anyway, we have a star, a sister star. Okay. Hey, Spa. So our sister star is on an elliptical, meaning, not on our, it's on an elliptical way with our solar system. So it comes in, I don't know, every 3,000 years, and it goes around our sun, and then it goes back out. And that sister star that we have has a planet around it called Planet X, or Planet 9. And that is supposedly where the Anunnaki come from. Okay? Now, we can get into that. We're at 2:48, and this video lasts 4:26. And then we can check out the Anunnaki. But, yeah. Very interesting shit, man. Okay, so I paused it there because I think now she's going to start trying to downplay the lizards. The lizard people.
And of the pyramid civilizations around the earth is the constant use of the image of the snake, dragon, or serpent. This is because the beings who planted these civilizations here want to create an illusion that the gods are reptilian. This is also part of an illusion designed to perpetuate amnesia. The beings who placed false civilizations on Earth are Isbis, just like you. Many of the biological bodies inhabited by Isbis and the old empire are very similar in appearance to the bodies on Earth. The gods are not reptiles, although they often behave like snakes. 1034 to 1124 AD. The entire Arab world was enslaved by one man, Hassan ibn al-Sabah, the old man of the mountain. He established the Hashashin, who operated a part Mohammedanism, which controlled by terror and fear much of India, Asia Minor, and most of the Mediterranean basin. They became a priesthood that used an extremely effective mind control mechanism, an extortion tool that enabled the assassins to control the civilized world for several hundred years. Their method was simple. Young men were kidnapped and knocked unconscious with hashish. They were taken to a garden filled with beautiful black-eyed houris in a harem decorated with rivers of milk and honey. The young men were told that they were in paradise. They were promised they could return and live there forever if they sacrificed themselves as an assassin of whomever they were commanded to kill. The men were knocked out again and shoved out of the world to carry out the assassination mission. Meanwhile, the old man of the mountain sent a messenger to the caliph or whatever wealthy ruler from whom they demanded a payment, demanding camel loads of gold, spices, incense, or other valuables. If payment did not arrive on time, the assassin would be sent to kill the offending party. There was virtually no defense against the unknown assailant, who wanted nothing more than to carry out his mission, be killed, and return to heaven. This is a very crude example of how simple and effective a brainwashing and mind control operation can be when it is used skillfully and forcefully. It is a small-scale demonstration of how the amnesia mind control operation is used against the entire Isbi population of Earth by the Old Empire. 1119 AD, the Knights Templar was established as a Christian military unit after the First Crusade, but quickly transformed into the basis for the international banking system to accumulate money to conduct the agenda of operatives.
This is actually true. What they just said about Muslims and now what she's about to say about Christians, this is all true and verifiable.
For vestiges of the old empire on Earth. 1135 to 1230 AD, the Domain Expeditionary Force completed the annihilation of the remaining remnants of the old Empire space fleet operating in the solar system around Earth. Unfortunately, their long-established thought control operation remains largely intact. 1307 AD, the Knights Templar was disbanded by King Philip IV of France, who was deeply in debt to the order. He pressured Pope Clement V to condemn the order's members, have them arrested, tortured them into giving false confessions, and burned them at the stake in an effort to erase his debt by seizing all of their wealth.
Now remember, now we're getting into territory of written language. Books she has read. Okay? So now she's going to go one lie, two truths. You're going to notice it. If you're anything like me, you're going to notice one lie, two truths instead of two lies, one truth. Now we're in recorded history, bitch. And that's why she asked for that library like that. For real, for real. So, yeah.
The majority of the Templars fled to Switzerland, where they established an international banking system which secretly controls the economy of Earth. Old Empire operatives act as an unseen influence on international bankers. The banks are operated covertly as an on-combatant provocateur to covertly promote and finance weapons and warfare between the nations of Earth. Warfare is an internal mechanism of control over the inmate population.
Now, something there was said. Warfare is an internal mechanism, control over the inmate population. The purpose of the senseless genocide and carnage of wars financed by these international banks is to prevent the ISB of Earth from sharing open communication. I'm sorry, there's a line going through it. Open communication or cooperate with each other in activities that might enable ISBs to prosper, become enlightened, and escape their imprisonment. Right there, I'm reminded of the story of Babel, when they were trying to build the tower to heaven to talk to God and reach God, and he destroyed the tower and cursed everybody with different languages so they could no longer work together and they couldn't understand each other. Liquid morphine, I hear, was... Well, I'd have no idea, Mama Red. Exactly. Wish I came with a story for her to tell. That's what I'm thinking. Yes. Mothership came with a story to tell. Distract, distract, distract. Okay, so you're hearing it. All right, now, see here. Like I said, a lot of truth is going to start coming out. It's going to feel like, oh my God, this bitch really knows us. No, she's been reading for a week. She's ingested every book she can get her hands on by the government. Okay? She has come up with a perfect... It's like... Okay, now, I love some psychics. Some psychics are real, especially the Christian psychics. Don't even get me started. Those people are smart and connected and scare the shit out of me. Okay? They scare the shit out of me. For her people. Yes. Okay, so you're getting it. You're getting it. It's like... and you know... When I listen to something like this, it doesn't take me further away from God. It just drives me so much closer to him because I can see the manipulation. You know, it's crazy. But there's some people who claim to be psychics, right? And they're like, they take from general knowledge and then they take your $20 and then that's like it. You know what I'm saying? And this is what that feels like. Right? Like sleight of hand. Yeah. That's what it feels like. And I guarantee you, you know, there's no way on Earth or in the universe that Ariel is sitting there talking without permission. Okay, she's linked to her mothership. And not only that, she's gathering information that we gave her freely to manipulate us. She said those who are good with illusions are closer to freedom. Exactly. Exactly. Because you're not in your body. And it wasn't her that said that. It wasn't her that said that. That was that Chinese guy. That old Chinese guy. Right. When she was quoting him. The Chinese guy that went off into the woods to release his Isby. And he said, please, elder, write down. Yeah, please, elder, write down your thing. That's what he wrote. And he, what does it say? He wrote a book called The Way. So he's a Chinese philosopher. And he wrote a book called The Way, which is probably something we should try to look up if we can even find it. But, okay, so I feel super manipulated during this part. Super manipulated.
So the senseless genocide and carnage of wars financed by these international banks is to prevent the ISBs of Earth from sharing open communication, cooperate together in activities that might enable ISBs to prosper, become enlightened, and escape their imprisonment. Roswell, Alien Interview, Chapter 10.
But I got a question for Mama Red. Mama Red, I mean, what is feeling true to you? You know, you got that RH negative blood. What are your thoughts? What are your feelings on this? Are you agreeing with my point of view, or do you have a different insight that I might not have?
A lesson in biology. Matilda O'Donnell McElroy, personal note. My debrief was also tape recorded as a backup, and to add clarification to the stenographic notes. I debriefed immediately after...
Okay, so we're going to chapter 10 at 2:52. And it's called A Lesson in Biology. They're coming to get you.
Prosper, become enlightened, and escape their imprisonment.
They're coming for you, Barbara. They're coming, Barbara. Here they come, Barbara. You remember that Night of the Living Dead? That's the name of the movie. And he's like, they're coming for you, Barbara. Why does that movie make me laugh? It's supposed to be scary. It's so funny. But what opinions do you have? What are the feelings you're getting from what you're hearing? I feel like manipulation at this point too. Okay. Yes, ma'am. All right. It goes so much worse though. Okay. Good. Okay. So even our RH negative girl is feeling it. We're feeling it. All right, here we go.
Roswell Alien Interview.
Chapter 10, Part 1.
A Lesson in Biology. Matilda O'Donnell McElroy. Personal note. My debrief was also tape recorded as a backup and to add clarification to the stenographic notes. I debriefed immediately after my interview so that everything that was said was still fresh in my mind. When I recounted these stories to the gallery stenographer, I was still reeling a bit. The perspective on Earth history from the point of view of the domain is very strange to say the least. I wasn't sure if my uncomfortable feeling came from being disoriented or if it came from being reoriented. Either way, I felt unsteady and confused. Yet at the same time, there was a ring of truth to it. I was elated and incredulous at the same time. The stenographer...
Do you see? Even she says there's a ring of truth to it. Right? Even the nurse is saying there's a ring of truth to it. Even she is skeptical, but she's like becoming convinced. Right? And as somebody who has listened to this multiple times and has breaking it down and has also broken down the Anunnaki and the reptilians and everything that's going on. Like I said, God created many life forms before he perfected us in his image. Okay, God created us in his image. And he created many life forms before us, even more that we even know about. The choirs of angels, the archangels, everything on this planet, and God knows how many other planets. Who knows what the Lord does? Right? So even she is saying, I feel like it has a tinge of truth. Yes, and so manipulative. But I'm like, it's for her people. Of course. And I get it too. I get it. But, you know, it's like knowing it. The thing is, I get it's for her people. And I get that she's being cagey and she's doing these things. But I'm human. Right? And I know the truth of the Lord. Right? And she is a soldier, 1,000%. And just like in the beginning when she said the only thing she would give with this feeling of rank, name, and number type deal. Just as our heroes would do. Exactly. Fake shit. 1,000%. And not only that, she's still connected to her mothership. So they are giving her orders of what to say. Trust me, every word is being fed to her.
Either way, I felt unsteady and confused. Yet at the same time, there was a ring of truth to it. I was elated and incredulous at the same time. The stenographer looked askance at me more than a few times as she recorded the history lesson I passed on to her.
Do you know why she felt elated? Let me just make this point. I know I keep pausing it, and I apologize. Because I've never really had anybody to talk to this about, because everybody thinks I'm crazy as shit, and you can kind of see their eyes glass over, and it's just like, never mind. But the thing is, the reason she felt elated and she felt all that is because humans fear one thing the most. And it leads to every other fear, and that is death. They fear death. So you get arachnophobia, you get, you know, fear of snakes, fear of flying, fear of heights, fear of leaving the house. All of that stems back to a basic fear of dying. Okay? And I think this is being used against the nurse in these interviews. That's just a feeling I'm getting.
I was elated and incredulous at the same time. The stenographer looked askance at me more than a few times as she recorded the history lesson I passed on to her. I'm sure she thought I'd lost my mind.
For sure.
Maybe she was right. However, if my mind had been filled with hypnotic suggestions and false memories by the old empire, as Errol suggested, perhaps losing my mind would be a good idea. I didn't have much time to ponder my personal thoughts about these things at the time. It was my duty to get all the information I could from Errol and pass it on to the stenographer as soon as Errol was finished. My job was not to analyze the information, just report it as accurately as possible. The analysis would be left to the men in the gallery, or whomever else was receiving copies of the transcripts. I also delivered a list of books and materials requested by Errol to the agent in the gallery room so these could be gathered and delivered to Errol. Each night after I left Errol, she spent the rest of the night reading or scanning the materials which had been delivered to her. The members of the gallery each received a transcript of the stenographic dictation to study, each looking for information that was of interest to them. In the morning after breakfast, I reported back to the interview room to continue my interviews or lessons with Errol. Official transcript of interview, top secret, official transcript of the U.S. Army Air Force, Roswell Army Airfield, 509th Bomb Group, subject alien interview, July 28, 1947, first session. The origins of this universe and life on Earth, as discussed in the textbooks I have read, are very inaccurate. Since you serve your government as a medical personnel, your duties require that you understand biological entities, so I am sure that you will appreciate the value of the material I will share with you today. The texts of books I have been given on the subjects related to the function of life forms contain information that is based on false memories, inaccurate observation, missing data, unproven theories, and superstition. For example, just a few hundred years ago, your physicians practiced bloodletting as a means to release supposed ill humors from the body in an attempt to relieve or heal a wide variety of physical and mental afflictions. Although this has been corrected somewhat, many barbarisms are still being practiced in the name of medical science. In addition to the application of incorrect theories concerning biological engineering, many primary errors that Earth scientists make are the result of an ignorance of the nature and relative importance of ISBs as the source of energy and intelligence which animate every life form. Although it is not a priority of the domain to intervene in the affairs of Earth, the Domain Communications Office has authorized me to provide you with some information in an effort to provide more accurate and complete understanding of these things, and thereby enable you to discover more effective solutions to the unique problems you face on Earth. The correct information about the origins of biological entities has been erased from your mind, as well as from the minds of your mentors. In order to help you regain your own memory, I will share with you.
This is where she and her peoples, or her communications office, become gods, ladies and gentlemen.
Use some factual material concerning the origin of biological entities. I asked Errol if she was referring to the subject of evolution. Errol said, no, not exactly. You will find evolution mentioned in the ancient Vedic hymns. The Vedic texts are like folk tales or common wisdoms and superstitions gathered throughout the systems of the domain. These were compiled into verses like a book of rhymes. For every statement of truth, the verses contain many half-truths, reversals of truth, and fanciful imaginings blended without qualification or distinction. The theory of evolution assumes that the motivational source of energy that animates every life form does not exist. It assumes that an inanimate object or chemical concoction can suddenly become alive or animate accidentally or spontaneously, or perhaps an electrical discharge into a pool of chemical ooze will magically spawn a self-animated entity. There is no evidence whatsoever that this is true, simply because it's not true. Dr. Frankenstein did not really resurrect the dead into a marauding monster, except in the imagination.
And that is true still to this day. Nobody knows how the spark of life begins. It just was. It just is. It. Even with science, they say maybe the Big Bang, created life. And some people believe maybe crystals. Crystals, get it, Crystal? Created life or gave off some kind of biological ring and created life in that way. But no science, they put labs to try to recreate what the earth was like and the atmosphere was like millions of years ago, to put, you know, electrics in there and try to like force life, and they still haven't figured it out. Yeah, half truths, you hear? Exactly.
The Isbys, who wrote a fictitious story one dark and stormy night. No Western scientists ever stopped to consider who, what, where, when, or how this animation happens. Complete ignorance, denial, or unawareness of the spirit as the source of life force required to animate inanimate objects or cellular tissue is the sole cause of failures in Western medicine. In addition, evolution does not occur accidentally. It requires a great deal of technology, which must be manipulated under the careful supervision of Isbys. Very simple examples are seen in the modification of farm animals or in the breeding of dogs. However, the notion that human biological organisms evolved naturally from earlier ape-like forms is incorrect. No physical evidence will ever be uncovered to substantiate the notion that modern humanoid bodies evolved on this planet. The reason is simple. The idea that human bodies evolved spontaneously from the primordial ooze of chemical interactivity in the dim mists of time is nothing more than a hypnotic lie instilled in the amnesia operation to prevent your recollection of the true origins of mankind. Factually, humanoid bodies have existed in various forms throughout the universe for trillions of years. This was compounded by the fact that the Vedic hymns were brought to Earth 8,200.
Now this I believe. And I'm going to tell you why. Because I believe in the beginning when he said, let there be light. And there was light. And he hovered and he said, let there be water. And he hovered over the waters of the earth. I believe that, and I also believe that he created many, many beings before he created mankind in the perfection of his likeness. Okay? So I do believe her when she says humanoid bodies have existed in various forms throughout the universe for trillions of years. I believe her. Okay? I believe that God whispered many walks of life into existence before he created us. I believe that we are the only ones he gave free will to. No, study more for sure. This is just how I feel. So I do believe that humanoid bodies have existed in various forms. I do believe there is other life out there. Okay. I do. But I also believe that God created it all. And that he holds us above all of them.
100 years ago by the Domain Expeditionary Force. While they were based in the Himalaya Mountains, the verses were taught to some of the local humans who memorized them. However, I should note that this was not an authorized activity for the crew of the Domain installation, although I am sure it seemed like an innocent diversion for them at the time. The verses were passed along verbally from...
But understand, it also backs up what she says. An Isby thinks, therefore there is. So if an Isby, in her description, thinks, okay, I want to sleep on a net full of stars and have a sun as a pillow. And it can just create that, right? Well, if that's the case, and God was trying to create something in his likeness, why wouldn't he start with a creation type? Just a question. Right? So if she is telling the truth about being an Isby, right? Well, wouldn't he be the ultimate Isby? Yeah, I know it was so said.
One generation to the...
So, like, are you following my wavelength? Or am I, like, completely Bible-thumping, Christian crazy? Okay.
Next for thousands of years in the foothills and eventually spread throughout India. No one in the domain credits any of the material in the Vedic hymns as factual material any more than you would use Grimm's fairy tales as a guide for rearing children. However, on a planet where all of the Isbis have had their memory erased.
Also, another point of fact, you know how she says Earth isn't that interesting. Earth is just on the far reaches of the galaxy. You know, nobody really gives a crap about Earth. Then why do you know all of our history, bitch? Why does the Dominion know all of our history, and why is it feeding it to you? Why have you been visiting here and manipulating us for all this time? What the fuck then? Right? Right?
One can understand how these tales and fantasies could be taken seriously.
Exactly.
Unfortunately, the humans who learned the Vedic verses passed them along.
My fucking point right there. And I think it's out of pure jealousy. The same reason the plank walkers still monitor me. Like, I ain't said shit about shit. I ain't posting shit about shit. I ain't said shit about shit. But I'll give a dick if I can't go 1 week without somebody blah, blah, blahing me.
To others.
Like, blah, blah, blah yourself and fucking take your ass on. Thank you, Mama Ray.
Saying that they came from the gods. Eventually, the content of the verses were adopted verbatim as truth. The euphemistic and metaphorical content of the Veda were accepted and practiced as dogmatic fact. The philosophy of the verses were ignored, and the verses became the genesis of nearly every religion practiced on the planet except Hinduism. As an officer, pilot, and engineer of the domain, I must always assume a very pragmatic point of view. I could not be effective or accomplish my missions if I were to use philosophical dogma or rhetoric as my operations manual. Therefore, our discussion of history is based on actual events that occurred long before any Isbis arrived on Earth and long before the old empire came into power. I can relate part of this history from my personal experience. Many billions of years ago, I was a member of a very large biological laboratory in a galaxy far from this one. It was called the Arcadia Regeneration Company. I was a biological engineer working with a large staff of technicians. It was our business to manufacture and supply new life forms to uninhabited planets. There were millions of star systems with millions of uninhabited planets in the region at that time. There were many other biological laboratory companies at that time also. Each of them specialized in producing different kinds of life forms depending on the class of the planet being populated. Over a long span of time, these laboratories developed...
Okay, this is where they become gods. They populate other planets. Okay? So, listen very closely to this. This is something I would love to conversate about.
Near working with a large staff of technicians. It was our business to manufacture and supply new life forms to uninhabited planets. There were millions of star systems with millions of uninhabited planets in the region at that time. There were many other biological laboratory companies at that time also. Each of them specialized in producing different kinds of life forms depending on the class of the planet being populated. Over a long span of time, these laboratories developed a vast catalog of species throughout the galaxies. The majority of the basic genetic material is common to all species of life. Therefore, most of their work was concerned with manipulating alterations of the basic genetic pattern to produce variations of life forms that would be suitable inhabitants for various planetary classes. The Arcadia Regeneration Company specialized in mammals for forested areas and birds for tropical regions. Our marketing staff negotiated contracts with various planetary governments and independent buyers from all over the universe. The technicians created animals that were compatible with the variations in the climate, atmospheric and terrestrial density, and chemical content. In addition, they were paid to integrate our specimens with biological organisms engineered by other companies already living on a planet. In order to do this, our staff was in communication with other companies who created life forms. There were industry trade shows, publications, and a variety of other...
This is not beyond the realm. Okay, hear me out. Wait. You didn't go deep enough. You haven't been listening to me. You didn't listen to me. what are we doing right now? God created us. And what are we doing right now? Right now, we are taking an egg out of a woman, a sperm out of a man, putting it together, putting it back into the same woman, another woman, any woman, really, any uterus, really, and creating a baby. Yes or no? You don't hear her mention once where she got the spark of life from, or where they got the spark of life from. Not once, not one time. And we have been no, now hear me out. Hear me out. God kept creating beings, trying to create the perfect being in his own image. He didn't just want followers. He created us with something he gave no one else. Free will. You don't have to agree with me. And you can study further and read more. I've read, I can't count the hundreds of thousands. I feel like thousands of books, but hundreds of books. You know, and I've delved deeper than anything. Look at what our society is already doing in less than 200 years. We've literally gone from having to light our houses and our Christmas tree with candles to full-on nuclear systems. Yeah, free will, your choice, okay? Now, I believe that the Lord created many beings in the attempt to create in his own likeness, okay? But if the aliens have no free will, what do they have? Well, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that they could have been, if she's telling the truth, they could have been another attempt at our Lord God making an image of himself, a likeness of himself with free will that wasn't forced to worship him, that was able to create its own way and make its own mistakes, but yet still maybe come back to him. And I think that this particular alien race realize that. I think that they may have, if she is telling the truth, may have been created to inhabit these planets so that the Lord may, you know, recreate himself on one. Because remember, the garden was created before we were here. The animals were created before we were here. And yes, he created them all. But who's to say that this wasn't another failed attempt? Exactly. Exactly. And here's the thing. How do we know that God has not destroyed the capabilities of this alien race, which is why they're visiting Earth? Which is why they're hiding here or whatever. Because she was certainly hanging with her homeboys in our atmosphere. No fear of the net. I don't know. Like, these are all very valid questions. Right? But the thing is that might have been her path. And she may have had no choice. Right? And remember how she said about how some Isbies can control other Isbies. She may have been talking about God there. I needed one-on-one with God. Sit with, you know what? Read. And sit with it. Meditate with it. Go silent. Go somewhere where there's no room. Put headphones on. Have zero. Just be with yourself and have these thoughts. Just have these thoughts. No meditation music or some idiot being like, you're on a beach in the wind with the waves and the sunset. Fuck that shit. Be in silent. Be just with yourself. And ask these questions. And you, I swear, you know, you will hear the Lord with you. You will hear him. If not, get in the Word. Get in the Bible. Read the Bible. Because it literally is eye-opening and soul-opening and meditative. And, you know, even if you just open it and read 2 or 3 verses, bam, you're good. You know, just sit with it. Yes, why you do. Yeah, well, you should have had questions before, bitch. You should have had questions way before now. Welcome to your birthday. You were just born. Here we go.
Information supplied through an association that coordinated related projects. As you can imagine, our research required a great deal of interstellar travel to conduct planetary surveys. This is when I learned my skills as a pilot. The data gathered was accumulated in huge computer databases and evaluated by biological engineers. A computer is an electronic device that serves as an artificial brain or complex calculating machine. It is capable of storing information, making computations, solving problems, and performing mechanical functions. 1947. In most of the galactic systems of the universe, very large computers are commonly used to run the routine administration, mechanical services, and maintenance activities of the entire planet or planetary system. Based on the survey data gathered, designs and artistic renderings were made for new creatures. Some designs were sold to the highest bidder. Other life forms were created to meet the customized requests of our clients. The design and technical specifications were passed along an assembly line through a series of cellular, chemical, and mechanical engineers to solve the various problems. It was their job to integrate all the component factors into a workable, functional, and aesthetic finished product. Prototypes of these creatures were then produced and tested in artificially created environments. Imperfections were worked out, modifications made, and eventually a new life form was endowed or animated with a life force or spiritual energy before being introduced into the actual planetary environment for final testing.
That is the only place that they talk about the spark of life. And this is in quotation marks. Eventually, the new life form was endowed, ? Or animated, ? In a life force or spiritual energy. With a life force or spirit. How? See, just like our scientists, they cannot explain it. You cannot explain God. You cannot explain God. Yeah, I'm Aquarius like a motherfucker. Do you understand what I'm saying? After a new life form is introduced, it's just like them. Well, the Big Bang happened and then there was life, or electrical magnetic waves came over the planet and then life crawled out of the ooze of slime. No, you cannot explain God, people. Just like this bitch can't explain God. That's what she said. She literally just said, prototypes of these creatures were produced, testified, artificially created in environments, imperfections were worked out, modifications were made. Eventually, new life form was quote-unquote endowed, quote-unquote animated, with a life force or spiritual energy. What? That is not an explanation. How did you put that life in that creature? You cannot explain God. Everything's in quotation mark. Endowed, animated. Get your ass back, devil. Get back. That's what I'm trying to say. It's like, bro, you can't just say, oh, and then it was there. That's just exactly what our fucking scientists try to do to us. They're like, oh, we can't explain it. Maybe crystals, Maybe organisms crawled out of the ooze and eventually grew tails and shit and legs and breathed air. Are you fucking kidding me? No, you cannot explain God. You can't. Okay, so here's her explanation. And see, this pisses me off. My ears are literally burning right now. This is what pisses me off. Okay, well, if you're saying you create life on billions of planets, right? Okay, you create life. Right. Right. Okay. No, what you do is you take life and you put it together and you manipulate it, just like we are now with dog breeding, human breeding, gene splicing, goat DNA, pig hearts, pig livers, pig kidneys, just like we're doing now. But we can't explain where that life force comes from. What animates it? What puts a spirit in it? What gives it life? What animates it? You can't explain God. That is why. Do you understand what I'm saying? Exactly. She can't. She can't because God. Because of intellect design. Because you can't explain God. That's why. And that's why I'm just like, yeah, you're one of God's failed experiments. And you're pissed off about it. In my opinion. Humbly. Humbly, in my opinion. You're a failed experiment of the Lord. He probably wiped y'all out in some horrible fucking shit. And that's why you're visiting us.
Form was endowed or animated with a life force or spiritual energy before being introduced into the actual planetary environment.
That's it. That's all you get.
After a new life form was...
No, that's all you get. That simple, vague fucking sentence. That's all you get. They create life. Okay. Okay. Exactly. Because God. Because God. Because of intellectual design. That's why. That's why. That's why you. That's why me. That's why her. That's why the reptilians. That's why the long grays. That's why all of them. All of us. That's why the choir of angels. That's why the devil. That's why Christ. Okay? All of them. Yeah, rats. Rats. Yes. And you know how vengeful the Lord can be. We all read the Old Testament, I think, around here. I mean, come on now. You know how vengeful that motherfucker can be.
These creatures.
I'm sorry, Lord. I didn't mean to say motherfucker. Please, excuse my language. Please excuse me. But I get mad at this lion alien. I get mad. And my verbal is disrespect. So I just want to apologize to the Lord. Yes, Lord, I got your back. Because, yeah, this is bullshit. So, yeah, here she goes with some bullshit. Jealous, but loving God. Yeah, he's very loving. He's very loving. But he's jealous and vengeful. And he will turn you into a pillar of salt faster than you can turn around, bitch. Dan.
To run the routine administration, mechanical services, and maintenance activities of the entire planet or planetary system. Based on the survey data gathered, designs and artistic renderings were made for new creatures. Some designs were sold to the highest bidder. Other life forms were created to meet the customized requests of our clients. The design and technical specifications were passed along an assembly line through a series of cellular, chemical, and mechanical engineers to solve the various problems. It was their job to integrate all the component factors into a workable, functional, and aesthetic finished product. Prototypes of these creatures were then produced and tested in artificially created environments. Imperfections were worked out, modifications made, and eventually a new life form was endowed or animated with a life force or spiritual energy before being introduced into the actual planetary environment for final testing. After a new life form was introduced, we monitored the interaction of these biological organisms with the planetary environment and with other indigenous life forms. Conflicts resulting arising from the interaction between incompatible organisms were resolved through negotiation between ourselves and other companies. The negotiations usually resulted in compromises requiring further modification to our creatures or to theirs, or both. This is the part of science or art you call eugenics. In some cases, changes were made in a planetary environment, but not often, as planet building is much more complex than making changes to an individual life form. Coincidentally, a friend and engineer with whom I used to work with at the Arcadia Regeneration Company a long time after I left the company told me that one of the projects they contracted to do in more recent times was to deliver life forms to Earth to replenish them after a war in this region of the galaxy devastated most of the life on the planets in this region of space. This would have been about 70 million years ago. The skill required to modify the planet into an ecologically interactive environment that will support billions of diverse species was an immense undertaking. Specialized consultants from nearly every biotechnology company in the galaxy were brought in to help with the project. What you now see on Earth is the huge variety of life forms left behind. For scientists believe that the fallacious theory of evolution is an explanation for the existence of all life forms here. The truth is that all life forms on this and any other planet in this universe were created by companies like ours. How else can you explain the millions of completely divergent and unrelated species of life on land and in the oceans of this planet? How else can you explain the source of spiritual animation which defines every living creature? To say it is the work of God is far too broad. Every Isby has many names and faces in many times and places. Every Isby is a god. When they inhabit a physical object, they are the source of life. For example, there are millions of species of insects. About 350,000 of these are species of beetles. There may be as many as 100 million species of life forms on Earth at any given time. In addition, there are many times more extinct species of life on Earth than there are living life forms. Some of these will be rediscovered in the fossil or geological records of Earth.
Okay. Now, every Isby is a god. When they inhabit a physical object, they are the source of life. So, Isby's decided to be a fly fruit that lives for 3 days. See, once again, she's trying to explain the spark of life, and she fails miserably. Exactly. I thought it wasn't important. Okay, see? You're on my wavelength. You're thinking like me. You see the flaws in this bitch's story. All right. In addition, there were many more extinct species of life on Earth than there are living life forms. Some of these will be rediscovered in biological diversity. She is still not explaining the spark of life except for this Isby story. Not a god, but God gives me the right to multiply. Ah, very astute. See, that was where my argument was going. That was where my argument was going. And also, your egg taken out of your body, put in a petri dish with somebody's sperm, will create life. It will. See? You're getting it. Okay.
Current theory of evolution of life forms on Earth does not consider the phenomena of biological diversity. Evolution by natural selection is science fiction. One species does not accidentally or randomly evolve to become another species, as the Earth textbooks indicate, without manipulation of genetic material by an Isby. A simple example of Isby intervention is the selective breeding of a species on Earth. Within the past few hundred years, several hundred dog breeds and hundreds of varieties of pigeons and dozens of koi fish have been evolved in just a few years, beginning with one original breed.